Alaska, with its majestic mountains, dense forests, and harsh climate, has always lured adventurers and adventurers. However, along with the incredible beauty of this wilderness comes the dangers. Disappearances in these remote areas are not uncommon, and many remain unsolved mysteries. This case, however, ranks among the most tragic and mysterious stories ever covered. Two brothers from the same family disappear under mysterious circumstances 10 years apart. The story begins in the city of Wasilla. It is the sixth largest city in Alaska, located in the northern part of Cook Inlet. Its population is approximately 11,000 people. The city is located 43 miles northeast of Anchorage. It is surrounded by mountains, rivers, and lakes, creating a breathtaking landscape, but with a small population. Michael Palmer disappeared on June 4th, 1999, probably at the intersection of Pittman Road and Wasilla, Alaska. His brother, Charles Chucky Palmer, disappeared on April 10th, 2010, west of Macedon Road near Bald Mountain. 15-year-old Mike Palmer was last seen wearing a t-shirt, blue jeans, a black jacket with red stripes on the sleeves, and a Marlboro cigarette label in his pocket. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. He was left-handed, and everyone called him Mike. On the night of his disappearance, Mike spent the night at a friend's house in Vasile, according to what his friends later told the police. That night, they all went to a graduation party that was taking place in the Meadow Lake neighborhood outside of Wasilla. They rode their bikes there, and the boy had a couple of beers, but he was hardly drunk, more like slightly tipsy. Around 4 in the morning, they decided to leave the party, got back on their bikes, and rode home. Mike's house was about 9 miles away from the party. His friends say they were all riding together, but Michael suddenly started to fall behind. When he fell a considerable distance behind, they stopped and waited for him at a small store on the park's highway. But after a long time, Mike never showed up. The boys decided that he had simply gone home, so they continued on without him. The next day, at about 3 o'clock, Mike's mother reported him missing, which was about 11 hours after he was last seen. That's how the search began. And according to Mike's friends, he was last seen on Pittman Road, driving toward his home. This is where the strange things begin. Apparently, the bike he was riding was not his. This was stated by the Alaska State Police. However, Mike's family claims that he had his own bike. In any case, this bike was found in a small river that runs parallel to the intersection of Pittman Road and Silver Drive. Between the road and the river was a lot of woods and dense brush. After Mike's bike was found, dogs were brought in to find more clues and track his trail. However, the dogs were unable to pick up the trail, which seemed very strange. Later, Mike's wet and muddy, low-soled sneakers were accidentally found. They were found by the owner of the house, who had a small private runway for a small airplane. He was coming out to prepare his plane for flight when he saw the sneakers. At this time, the Alaska State Military sent dive teams to search for Mike in the same river where his bike was found, as well as other locations nearby. More than 50 searchers combed the wooded area and the river for any trace of Mike or other clues, but unfortunately found nothing. Meanwhile, state law enforcement interviewed everyone who had been at the party. Reports emerged that Mike had been beaten by an unknown assailant while he was riding his bike. This was claimed by one of the locals, but he later admitted that he had made up the story. Mike's father had been suspicious of his 3 friends' story all along and thought they might be hiding something. So he even hired several different private detectives to look into the matter. According to him, one of the detectives was actually run out of town because he was threatened. Another private investigator who investigated the case was able to uncover rumors that Michael may not have left the party and was the victim of murder or even kidnapping or both. Of course, none of this has been confirmed, but it was believed that something terrible happened to him that night. This is confirmed by the fact that his bicycle was found in the river, and then his shoes were accidentally found on the runway in an unknown man's yard. Some even believe that Michael was simply riding his bike, fell off it, fell into the river, and died of hypothermia. This may be plausible, but it doesn't make sense because the river was nowhere near the road. However, the only clues that were found were his shoes, which were about a mile from where he was last seen, and his bicycle, which was found in the river. There have also been many different mystical stories related to the Alaska mystery, but there has been no confirmation of this, and Mike is still missing with no other trace of him. Unfortunately, his brother suffered a similar fate. Charles Chucky Palmer disappeared in April of 2010. He was 30 years old at the time, and his older brother Chris was 32. They had gone on a road trip to the Talkeetna Mountains in Alaska with their stepfather, Chuck Palmer Sr., and a few friends. They parked their cars on Macedon Road and were going to ride snowmobiles to a cabin near Sheep Creek. Obviously, they were all very familiar with the area. Chris, the oldest brother, was the most experienced hiker. On April 10th, 2010, Chucky's snowmobile handlebars broke off, so he was forced to stay in the cabin while everyone else went snowmobiling through the forest. Chris said he usually rode behind his younger brother to make sure they didn't lose sight of each other. But unfortunately, on this particular day, he was unable to go, so Chucky took his place behind him. At about 19 o'clock, Chucky somehow got separated from the rest of the group and just disappeared. Usually, he was good at driving the snowmobile, but he wasn't as strong as the others. Chris assumed that the others were probably going too fast for Chucky to catch up. Chris said that he was dressed for the weather, but unfortunately, he didn't have any survival gear with him: GPS, food, water, or even a compass. He was last seen west of Mastodon Road, near Bald Mountain. He was officially reported missing only 12 hours later, in the early morning hours of April 11th. On Sunday morning, his snowmobile was found. It was assumed that he might have drifted off a side trail and gotten deeply stuck in a large snowbank. However, the military and all those involved in the search were unable to find any trace of him. The search was suspended the next day, on Wednesday, but resumed a few days later with more specialists and equipment. However, the weather conditions made the work very difficult. Helicopters were ineffective as the blizzard severely hampered visibility. And wet and deep snow made the search on foot extremely difficult and also hampered the operation of snowmobiles. More than 30 inches of snow fell at the start of the search. State Trooper Troy Shuey, who was in charge of the search, said it was a very difficult environment. Rescuers could not understand what had happened because they found only the snowmobile, but no trace of Chucky. While it is usually possible to find footprints if someone has walked through the snow, this time none were found. The official search was suspended on Wednesday, April 15th, as it was not effective due to the harsh weather conditions, and the case of his disappearance remains open. The prevailing opinion is that he died of hypothermia. He was officially declared dead in 2011. Chris searched for him for weeks, traveling around Bald Mountain on snowmobiles and enlisting volunteers. He couldn't believe that 11 years later he was having to do the same for his other brother again. He was last seen wearing a black Gore-Tex jacket and vest, black snowshoes, black boots, and a black snowboard helmet in the Talkeetna Mountains of Alaska. Perhaps something terrible happened to him or he was trapped by the wild, but both cases seem very strange. Two brothers disappear under very strange circumstances 10 years apart. The disappearance of Michael and Chucky Palmer is a tragic story that has left many unanswered questions. Despite persistent searches, including the participation of volunteers and rescue services, no trace of them has been found. The official search has been suspended, but family and friends continue to hold on to hope and the memory of Michael and Chucky. The case is still open, and perhaps one day we will know what exactly happened to these brave brothers. That's all for now. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and let us know what you think in the comments below. What do you think was the reason for the brothers' mysterious disappearances? Something mysterious, or just a coincidence?